look, you did the finger
Did
thing
I do it right?
Yes. Good job.
Wayne's World.
And we're
Welcome.
back.
Yeah, we are back. Sorry. If you are this is too real with Mike and Jillian Rosado, and our intros are too real for you. You are sensing our awkwardness because we are filming 2 episodes today and we're cutting them in half. So we recognize that there was a lot of content. So we wanted to split them in half. So you're getting the second half of this right now. So that's why we're real funky and awkward, and we're wearing the same clothes if you're watching us online. You kind of stole my look today a little bit, the denim and black, but I have the big olive green boots on while you have tan pants.
That's right. And I got the Nike Blazers on.
It snowed, so I didn't want to wear nice shoes. I wanted to wear these big old boots.
Face stompers.
Yeah, I could really mess some things up with these.
You can.
Try me. I was doing kicks in my workout this morning too. If I had these on, you know.
I won't mess with you today.
Don't mess with me. Don't do it. All right, so we are just going to hop right back in. We were talking about the dark side of ministry, and what we said in the intro to our first episode is just because we work in a church, don't turn this off, because this is stuff that could apply to you no matter where you are. We're just bringing it from the context of leading a church of 2 locations. We lead a family, we lead people, all the things. Okay. So we are just going to jump right back in. I ended with my point 2. So Miguel Antonio, Michael Anthony, whatever your name is. You'll check the last episode for the joke here. And what is your second point?
This one, it bothered me for years when I was going through college. I had a college professor say this phrase. He would say, "Everyone lies to pastor." Right? And if you ever watch House would always say,
yeah.
Everyone lies. And I was like, not everyone lies. Like, come on. Like, I could create a culture. I can create an environment where people can feel safe with me and tell me everything. And I think they tell me a lot of things.
I think they tell you more than they would tell the average person.
For sure.
But not everything.
But after 23 plus years of ministry, I have to come to the place and the awareness, and this is my point number 2, that it is completely difficult for people to be completely honest with me. It is difficult for people to be completely honest with me. Why? Because we live in a performance-driven culture, in and out of church. So sometimes they gauge their vulnerability, so like they only let me go so far because they don't want to ruin the reputation of me. They don't want to let me down too much. They don't want to disappoint me, and that's difficult because sometimes sometimes I believe people. Sometimes because I try to keep it a buck with people and I try to be honest with people, and completely honest with people. Like, like I said in the last episode that try my best to maintain this sense of like, I'm approachable, I'm real, I'm human like you, So I'm really honest with people, probably to the point where sometimes I make people uncomfortable. But most often than not, that's not completely reciprocated.
Yeah.
And I get caught off guard a lot.
Yeah.
Where, I ask someone, "Hey man, how's your marriage doing?" "Great. Fantastic." And the real raw version of me, the raw version of my ministry is like, I want to get it in there, right? Not I don't need to be nosy. I don't need to be I don't need to have all the information, but like sometimes I'm like, "Yo, how's your sex life?" Sometimes I want to be like, "Yo, are your kids driving you crazy? Like, are there times you want to choke slam them? I want to ask those questions, but I gotta gauge where they are in the relationship. But the only reason I want to ask those questions is because I want to get to the truth so I can help them in their reality. But how's your marriage? Great. Awesome. A couple weeks later, things are so good with your marriage. Things are wonderful. Great. Fast forward 3 months, 5 months from now, we're getting a divorce. Bro, I've asked you and asked you and asked you, how's everything doing? And the problem is our culture and our society, how you doing is a greeting, not a question.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's that whole, like, if you're from the Philly area, you good?
Yeah.
You good? We're really not asking that. It's just a greeting.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
But when I'm asking that, like, are you really good? I was listening to a podcast and this one person said that they decided not to ask how are you anymore. They just want to ask the question, how are you sleeping?
Did we listen to that together?
Yeah, I think we did
Okay.
listen to
Yeah,
that together.
yeah.
It's like
I'm like, I heard that, and that was a really good
really good thing because
question.
that takes you off guard a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, how are you sleeping? Because if they're not sleeping, that means something's on their mind. And so
Yes.
like, if something's on their mind, what's on your mind? What are you worried about? What are you stressed out about?
Yeah.
Those kind of things, right? So I have to think creative ways to get people to be honest and take them off guard. Because how are you doing? How's your marriage doing? People lie to you, and I'm not saying that they lie to you intentionally. I just think out of routine, and they just give this robotic answer back. Things are great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But then why 5 months from now you're going to tell me that you're getting a divorce?
You know, it just struck me when you said that. Every morning when my house wakes up, I ask each person, "How'd you sleep?"
Mm.
I never noticed that about myself, and y'all all say, "Good." So you lied to me. So I need a new question.
No, sometimes I'll
Ask.
tell you, like, yeah, I took me a while to fall asleep.
Yeah, and
I
I'll
was
be like,
thinking
"What was
about
going
this.
on?" Da, da, da. Yeah,
Right. But it's better. It works better than how are you?
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Because we all do that. Like,
yeah.
the cashier, how are you doing? Great. How are you?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's the meme like when someone's like, "Hi, what's your name?" and you're like, "Good, thanks."
yeah,
Like
yeah. That's just
it's so robotic
so
anymore.
robotic.
Yeah.
But even on that level, like when I ask real specific questions, I have to remind myself, hey, give them some grace. You are pastor.
Yeah.
If you're listening, you are the supervisor. You are their boss. You are their parent,
Yeah.
right?
How
Sometimes,
many times? Oh my goodness.
yeah, right? Like when we push them and just like, yeah, you said this last time, but that's not true. And you know what I hate? Like when our kids are, they, we know darn well they're lying.
Oh my goodness. Don't even, I'm going to pop off. I'm not going to be the bigger person in this conversation.
Right, but you know darn well they're lying, and you try to give them so much space and
You
room
ask them
just to
18 times to
tell
give them the
the
opportunity to
truth,
not
dude.
lie.
Right,
And then after they finally come clean and you say to them, "I know you're lying.
right,
I ask you multiple times because I know you're lying and I'm giving you an opportunity to tell the truth."
right.
And then they still do it again. And it's just these moments. I keep on calling my parents and saying, "I don't know how you didn't kill me.
Right.
I'm really sorry."
Mm.
Da-da. There was a meme the other day that my best friend posted about like something like when your kids lie to you, it finally clicks how stupid you must have seemed to your parents. And I lied so much as a teenager. My dad replied to her story and said Jill was the biggest liar, and it was so obvious. And they both screenshotted it and sent it to me, and I was dying. I'm like, but I was. And my parents asked me multiple times to give me an opportunity not to lie. And I don't know how we got on this subject right now, but we were complaining about being parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, because there was something in there that we didn't feel either we knew what we were doing was wrong
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't want to admit that because I think most children have the safety with their parents to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did it more often, they would recognize that.
Right.
But a lot of times I think it's a lot of shame that they carry and they don't
For
want to
sure.
admit it.
And that's where I have to remind myself because I'm an honest person. I've heard the phrase that a trusting person is a trustworthy person, right? And usually people who aren't trusting, usually not everyone, but usually people who aren't trusting, most of the time is because they're not trustworthy, right? So because I tell the truth more often than not, I believe people what they say.
Yeah.
And then I get really disappointed and upset and angry even when I find out that it's a lie or I find out the truth later.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself it's difficult. They don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah.
They're carrying around guilt and shame. So I need to offer grace in that area. I need to offer grace on whatever issue that they have, but also grace that they're not going to tell me the issue as quickly as I want them to tell me the issue.
Yeah.
And to go back to your point, it's because they're not against me. They're just protecting themselves. They're for themselves. So yes, Professor, you were right. Everyone does lie to pastor. And I can't take it personally, but I can still just push on creating that safety that eventually when they are ready to tell me the truth, I want to be there for them.
Yeah.
So that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
What's another thing you've learned in ministry?
It's the last thing I've learned because we could go on all day, but we developed 3 things. So to recap, it's not about being the bigger person. It's about staying true to your character. people aren't against you, they're just for themselves. And my third thing is you can't take things too personally, but you can't turn off your feelings either. So there's that tension, that there's finding that balance between taking things personally because people aren't against you, they're for themselves. But there's that temptation to be like, I'm just going to build this wall in front of my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let anyone get close to me. I'm not going to care about anything. And I'm just going to put my head down and do the job.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy either.
No.
But like, can I tell you how often I have to fight that temptation?
Yeah.
To be like, I don't care. I don't care. You do whatever you want. I don't
Right.
care. Because I do. 9 times out of 10, when someone says they don't care, they care.
Yes.
But it is so tempting to be like,
Right.
not going to put myself out there,
Right.
not going to become friendly with. Like we have our staff grew this summer because of a school grant that we got and brought into our location. And there are some people on our staff that there was that temptation like, I'm only going to give a little bit towards them. I'm only going to give them a little bit of Jill because I don't want to get hurt again. And I think something that's hard for me too, and I've put myself in this place, is because I share so much on social media, people come in thinking they already know me.
Yes.
And you're only getting a 3-minute video of my 24-hour day.
Yes.
And as pared down and raw as it is at times, again, you're only getting 3 minutes of my 24-hour day. And I'm not sharing everything about my kids because I want to preserve my kids' privacy. I'm not sharing everything about our marriage because I want to have some privacy in our marriage. But there was that temptation with them coming on, be like, oh, I'll give them 6 minutes of my 24-hour day. I'm not going to give them all of me because at some point the switch is going to come and they're going to leave or they're going to be offended or they're this or they're that. And I have to fight constantly to tear that wall down. And the beauty is when you do tear that wall down, like you get to meet some pretty amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
You get to share in some really cool experiences. You get to hear their stories and stuff. And sometimes it works out really well and sometimes it doesn't. And I've come to find out that the sacrifice of letting people in is worth it.
Yeah.
It hurts for a little bit. It takes a lot of work to work through it. But like sacrificing my heart at times is worth it.
Yes.
I'm not sacrificing all of it.
No.
But I'm sacrificing a part of it. And that's what I committed to when I came into this role. And, it helps me in future encounters with people. It helps me grow. It helps me grow a lot. Like, I don't want to live this safe, protected life that no one ever hurts my feelings. I never get pushed to do more. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a tension, you don't want it to take all of your heart, but you want to let it take some of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to not let it affect you at all
Yeah.
at the same time.
I think the ultimate goal of leadership, especially people in roles like ours, is that you have to get to the place in your life where you have thick skin and a tender heart.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get attacked, you're gonna get hurt, people will betray you, people will unnecessarily call you out on things. So you have to have tough skin.
Yeah.
You can't be fragile in that regard.
Yeah.
But the moment you allow those situations to make your heart tough. You
Yeah.
can't have a tough heart.
Yeah.
Because then you stop caring, and when you stop caring, you can't lead them effectively.
Yeah.
And that's when you become careless.
Yeah.
And you do more damage than good.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest thing: thick skin, tender heart.
And I think having that thick skin and tender heart helps you to have it actually grows your awareness too. Because then you're like, okay, this person said this
Mm-hmm.
and that really hurt. And I'm going to feel it, but I'm also going to be aware, okay, now when I'm looking at this person, when I'm interacting with this person, like, what are these things that I'm noticing?
Yeah.
What are they truly saying?
Right.
Like, it helps you to have a more open viewpoint towards them so that, one, you know how to interact with them, but you also know how to help them grow too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this dance, to be honest. But there's some days I don't want to dance.
Yeah.
There's some days I really want to dance.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to find that like steady two-step, you know?
Yeah, the steady two-step. Yep.
The
I think
Burlington Shuffle.
we need to care about what people think. Any leader, I think it's immature to be like, I don't care about what people think.
Yeah.
You're trying to fight back with your bravado.
Yeah.
You have to care about what people think. The balance to that is that you just can't let it define you,
Yeah.
right? So we do care about what people think,
Yeah.
but we can't let it define us.
Mhm.
So that's where the thick skin comes in, but we still maintain a tender heart because I do care.
Yeah.
And I do see different points of view of myself or the organization and those kind of things.
Yeah.
To wrap this up, I think the point that I've learned a lot more now, probably in the last few years, and you've pointed this out, so thank you, Jillian, is that I need to budget. As a leader, we need to budget our best. And what I mean by that is I'm not being fake, but I am on the grind, right? So like when I'm meeting with people, I am polite, gentle, stern when I need to be, wise. I'm the best version of myself. Not being fake. I'm the best version of myself. But I need to budget my best because at times, so this is work. Right now we're in a church building. And so I'm shaking hands, kissing babies. Like, I'm the best version of Mike Rosado. I've been tempted that when I go home, that's my safe space. That's where I could let my hair down, kick off my shoes. You know what I mean? Like, but then I allow that safety to turn down the knob of my best. And then now I'm not my best at home. I could be rude at home. I could be quick. I could be short fused at home. I could say things less calculated at home. And that's unfair to my family. That's unfair to my wife. That's unfair to my kids. They're my primary ministry in life. So I had to learn that I need to budget my best, meaning that I have to make sure that it's not fair for the church to get the best version of but my family doesn't. And I say, well, that's because, and I used to justify it like, but I should feel safe. So when can I let my hair down? When can I do this? And I have to find other spaces like with my friend to vent and to be ugly. And it doesn't mean that I can't feel safe at home. What it means is like, as I'm serving the crowd, I can't serve the crowd better than I serve my family.
I think this is a similar way to put it. You can't put all of your energy into your work and save none of it for your family.
Exactly.
And I think what we were running into for a while there is we were getting whatever energy you had left at the end of the day. And most days that was none.
Yeah.
And so preserving that energy, like, hey, and it came down to, we got really specific with your calendar. Like, you're only going to take so many meetings a day, because I know if you're in meetings from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., when you come home, I don't even want to talk to him. He's done.
Yeah.
He's completely wiped out. He is a shell of himself.
Yep.
And I should not expect anything. And I don't think that's fair, So we were really calculated about, this is how many meetings he'll take a day. So we set up his Calendly so people can sign up for a meeting, but there's only so many spots on each day, and there's only a certain window for those meetings. And, it is what it is.
And sometimes people get offended. I had
Yeah.
to deal with that. Like, cause like, oh, I got to wait 3 weeks to meet with you. Because I needed to budget my best. Like,
Yeah.
it's not fair. It's not fair. That's why we see so many leaders, and pastors, like, they burn out, or they hear their families falling apart, or, the joke that we hear now, PKs are always like the craziest kids, pastors' kids, always the craziest kids, or they wild out, once they leave the coop and those kind of things, because the dad's not coming home. The parents aren't coming home.
Yeah.
With something in their tank.
Yeah.
To give their kids the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and you complaining, oh, I got to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is why.
Yeah.
This is why. It's not
Yeah.
fair for my kids to get the crappiest version of their dad. It's
Yeah.
not. So I have to budget my best.
Or like if they'll text you at 10 o'clock at night and you don't respond and they see that notification silenced, we've enacted like our phones go in personal mode, because
Yeah.
this is when we're home with our family.
Right.
And we can't be there are things that are urgent and there are things that are important, But unless it's an urgent and important thing, then it can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to recognize that.
Right.
Because you want to serve and you want to be there for people. But there are times that like family has to come first.
Right. And we talked about transition. So people will come and go. It's not that you're not important, but like we've experienced it. We've invested a lot of energy into certain people with the guarantee that they're not going to stick around. But your family is always going to be your family.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't want turnover in my family.
Yeah.
So I want to give them my best.
Yeah.
So I need to be intentional. That's why I use the term budget, right? You have a certain amount of energy a day. You have a certain amount of time of day. So with the same intense intentionality that you budget your finances, you need to also do that with your time and your energy so that you could be intentional with your investments. I want to intentionally invest in my marriage. I want to intentionally invest in my kids. I want to intentionally invest in the people in our congregation. But in the hierarchy of priorities, yeah, my family, my wife and my kids come first.
Yeah. And I think that's something that has really come to the forefront in these past couple years because we recognize like our kids are growing up. Like Chase is already off at college. Like he's not home as much as he used to be. Like once they get their license, they're not home. Like you start losing them, it feels like. So you decide to become really intentional about your time with them. Like Hunter's halfway through his junior year. Like we're talking about colleges and stuff. And I'm like, we got a year and a half left with him. Not even. We got about 6 months until he gets his license. Like we need to be really intentional with this.
One time, we'll close with this. One time I had literally had this, somebody just had the audacity to tell me, hey, listen, you don't get paid to be with your family. You get paid to be with the congregation. And I was like, first of all, like
y'all don't pay me enough.
Y'all don't pay me enough.
That's why we have 5 jobs between the two of us.
Yeah, and secondly, if I don't have a solid marriage, that affects the way I serve this congregation, right? Like if my marriage is crappy, who am I to go up there and give you marriage advice?
Yeah.
Right? If my kids are doing horrible, who am I to give you parenting advice?
Yeah.
Right? So like don't come at me with like you don't get paid to be with your family. Like it's balanced. I work, I hustle, I grind. But no, I'm not taking 50,000 meetings in one day just to make you feel like I'm earning my nickel. You know, like no, I'm not doing that. And so that had to be a hard conversation, but with a tender heart and a thick skin, I had to address that. But I need to budget my best.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Hopefully that didn't scare you away from ministry.
They're like, I ain't touching that with a 10-foot
yeah.
pole.
No, but there are so many. I want to close with this. So many rewards.
Yes,
to ministry. So many lives changed, marriages redeemed and strengthened. People getting off addictions. I've helped people get off addictions. I've helped families just turn around. Like it's great, but with everything there is a dark side to it, and we just want to talk about it because we want it to be real, but it's all worth it. It really is. It's all worth it.
Yeah.
So wrap us up, Jillian.
All right, so I feel like it's Groundhog Day. You can check us out on YouTube. Say hi, heyo, if you want to watch all of our gestures and interactions and faces and looks at the door while we're filming this.
Eye rolls.
Eye rolls, eye fluttering. You can count how many times I blink. Someone used to do that. But you can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just throw it on your phone as you're getting ready in the morning or as you're driving to work. We are on Instagram at Jillian Rosado at Mike Rosado, on TikTok at Jillian_Rosado at Mike Rosado. And we are here on Wednesdays with Too Real. So we'll see you next week.
See you guys.